I can also sit in a chair of strength, so
Mhm.
maybe I will identify, for instance, a mentor or a person that has influenced me in a really positive way. And could I imagine that person sitting in the chair first? And then could I imagine actually going to that chair and becoming them, embodying them, and taking in that wisdom? So maybe if I'm having a problem or I'm having a struggle, or I'm just, reached the limit of my ability to think something through, then
Mhm.
I can sit in that wisdom chair and I can embody them. And I always say to people, slow down, like sit in the chair and really like let yourself take on that role. And then once I take on that role, what would this wisdom figure want to say to me, Karen?
Today, it is my delight to introduce to you my special guest, Karen Carnabucci. She is a licensed clinical social worker. She is an experiential therapist. She is a trainer, psychotherapist, author, and consultant in private practice in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. She is the founder of the Lancaster School of Psychodrama and Experiential Psychotherapies. Her retreat-style trainings focus on teaching psychotherapists, coaches, educators, and other helping and healing professionals how to create sessions that are enlivened with authentic human connection, spontaneity, creativity, and sensitivity. She is the author of Show and Tell Psychodrama, Skills for Therapists, Coaches, Teachers, and Leaders, and co-author of Integrating Psychodrama and Systematic Constellations, New Directions with Action Methods, Mind-Body Therapies, and Energy Healing with Ronald Aaron Anderson. She is also the author of this book, which I have and I love, which is called Healing Eating Disorders with Psychodrama and Other Action Methods, Beyond the Silence and the Fury, which she co-wrote with Linda Ciatola. Most recently, she assisted in the writing of Words of the Daughter, a memoir by Regina Moreno, who is the daughter of the renowned J.L. Moreno, the originator of psychodrama, and Florence Bridge Moreno. In addition to her trainings for helping and healing professionals, she offers special interest groups on topics like writing for healers and the tarot journey in action, plus clinical supervision and consultation, along with selling Sandtray miniatures. She has particular interest in expanding creativity and spontaneity, the use of embodiment, as a way of deep learning and understanding and social change. Learn more about Karen at www.realtruekaren.com and subscribe to her e-letter for professionals. I'll be including all her links in the episode description. Without further ado, here's my conversation with Karen Carnabucci. Karen, thank you so much for being here today.
Hello, good to be here.
Yes, so the way that I actually found out about psychodrama for eating disorders, well, it was a little bit of a winding path. If I do recall correctly, is because I read this book called Recovery Mind Training by Dr. Paul Earley. It's actually a really good book, and it's all about addiction. And he has a section in it that mentions experiential therapies and psychodrama in the context, and he heartily recommends them. And I was like, tell me more, like, wait, because it was just like the tiniest little section in this book. And so then that kind of sparked me to be like, what is this? Because he didn't really dive into it. And then that's when I came across your book. I think I probably was Googling like eating disorders and psychodrama, and I came across this book, which is, as far as I'm aware, this is the only book that exists on the true intersection of action methods, psychodrama, experiential methods, and eating disorders. And so this book was tremendous. And then since then, actually, that inspired me to get more training. So I've done some workshops and yeah, like training courses over time. None of them, unfortunately, because I haven't been able to get out to Pennsylvania to do your specific or anyone who might touch on eating disorders. So I've only been to just kind of like general psychodrama trainings, but I found them to be so extremely powerful, and I just love that you are bridging those worlds because it's so needed, and I think the use of action methods is extremely compelling. So yeah, your book blew my mind. So for those who are unfamiliar, how would you, I know that there's different vocabulary. I'm not sure if you use the word psychotrauma, experiential methods, or action methods, or whatever, but if you could please talk about what your preferred term and what does that actually mean in simple terms for people who aren't so familiar.
Yes. So psychodrama is a very particular term that means, in the very literal definition, psyche in action. And it has very particular techniques. There are philosophies attached to it, in particular, the philosophy of rule theory and developmental theory. And There are very specific techniques that one uses in role play, although role play is not only thing that happens in psychodrama. Somehow it's been boiled down through the years, role play. Like, doesn't everybody know how to do that? And many times role plays fall very flat because the person attempting to do a role play hasn't ever been trained in
Mm-hmm.
exactly what that entails.
Mm-hmm.
And I've actually been to a workshop now and then here and there, not mine, of course, and not psychodrama workshops, but occasionally other workshops or other trainings where the person says, let's do a role play, and everybody tries to shrink back
Mm-hmm.
and pretend they're not in the room. But that is because there is a theory behind psychodrama and role play. There are techniques to do and not to do, depending on what's going on with your group or your person or what have you. So basically, what we attempt to do in psychodrama is we put whatever issue or struggle or situation you are facing, we put it into action so that you can experience it rather than think about it and talk about it. That might be with another role player, that might be with an empty chair, that might be with all kinds of techniques that support the person in having a chance to really look at and be with the situation almost in a very literal way.
Yeah, I think that that is so powerful. And this is related to embodiment. And I know that you have a very a passion about it, and so do I. So do I. So what role does embodiment play in psychodrama, and how might that help with disordered eating recovery?
Well, generally, embodiment means that we step into the role, whatever the role is. So it might be the role of, for instance, binge eater.
Mm-hmm.
It, in a way, was the original parts work. We're talking a lot about
Mm-hmm.
parts work
Mm-hmm.
now,
Mm-hmm.
um, but we've always done parts work in psychodrama. So I might ask you to introduce me, for instance, to the binge eater that lives
Mm-hmm.
inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it is the binge food. So rather than talking about me when I binge,
Mm-hmm.
I come forward and I speak as the one who binges,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Or I might speak as that particular binge food or binge substance. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe I will become and embody sugar,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe it
Mm-hmm.
will be a binge food like pizza or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it may. And as
Mm-hmm.
I'm speaking as the pizza, I am triangular. I am
Mm-hmm.
triangular. I might even take a posture about it. I might pull a scarf up and wrap it around me that might be something that speaks of that substance or that food to me, and
Mm-hmm.
actually become it and speak it and be with it and experience it firsthand rather than that thing that's in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And in embodying it, I learned so much more about it or
Mm-hmm.
me or whoever or whatever. Or I might embody the role of recovering person, for
Mm-hmm.
instance,
Mm-hmm.
or the role of abstinent person, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
And that's essentially what we're doing when we're working with psychodrama, is we are looking at the roles we play in life, and not just looking at them, we're becoming them, we're being them, we're playing them out in a safe setting. But then we also start practicing looking at roles that we want to be and want to play. And
Right.
really, again, embodying them, not just it becomes this thing that's maybe very invisible and not very graspable.
Right.
This is me, Karen. I am recovering Karen. I am the Karen who now eats, for instance, abstinently.
Mm-hmm.
And I
Yeah.
speak that way. I sit that way. I stand that way. I really hold the experience of that. And that is really good for me, because that's what we're doing, is we're looking at how to take new roles, healthier roles.
Right. Yeah. It just resonates so much. And I think about it not just in the role, but like just getting this as part of a somatic pattern in the body. As
Yes.
someone who struggles with an eating disorder, so often it's like it's just a disconnect and your body is moving in a certain way. My body goes to the fridge and it's opening the door. My body's grabbing the food. I'm just doing this and it's just like this pattern that our body engages in. But what if we could practice? What does the body do? How does
Mhm.
a person, as you were saying, how does a person speak? What did the person say? What are they going to sit like? How are they going to eat? What patterns would they want to embody? And then actually just practicing putting them in their body, because it's one thing to be sitting at a therapist's office and just talking about, oh, these are the problems that I have. These are ways that I might be able to do it differently. But it's another thing that I think is so powerful in psychodrama. You're literally putting it in your body. You're practicing what it would feel like to come home and instead of going to the fridge, you're going to this other place in your house. How does that feel? So it's not you're practicing it for the first time or maybe the fifth time, or you have the opportunity to practice it in your body that you don't when you're just talking about things. So I think that is just so incredibly compelling and so powerful.
Yes, absolutely, exactly. And I think I could say, safely say, for eating disorders, especially for so many things, but eating disorders, and that includes not just binge eating, but other
Hmm.
kinds of disorders
Right.
around eating or disordered eating, is
Hmm.
so many times we are disconnected from our body.
Hmm. Yeah.
In fact, I would say maybe all the time, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So to train ourselves to be aware of our body holding
Hmm.
space and time and moving and being and breathing, and to
Hmm.
learn about hunger and what hunger is versus maybe another feeling that we might have,
Right.
are all embodiment principles,
Yes.
all experiential
Hmm.
principles.
Hmm. 100%. So what originally drew you to psychodrama as a therapeutic approach, especially in the context of eating disorders, because you really are a pioneer there? Yeah, how did this come about?
Originally, I was a newspaper editor and reporter reporting on health and wellness, addiction, many
Hmm.
of the things actually
Hmm.
that professional helpers do.
Hmm.
And through an interview that I conducted at a regional treatment center, and it was more addiction oriented than eating disorder oriented,
Hmm.
I was introduced to this thing called experiential therapy,
Hmm.
which,
Hmm.
when we speak of experiential therapy, it's broader. It can include psychodrama, but it can include other things as well. I was introduced to this kind of therapy. It was very different than anything that I had ever experienced before, even though I had
Hmm.
experienced therapy for myself.
Yes.
It was talk therapy. And so I was immediately taken by the power of it, as I think many people are when they
Hmm.
actually get involved and
Right.
actually see it, experience it, and so forth.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
then started having this really crazy idea that I wanted to become an experiential therapist,
Hmm. Hmm.
and eventually followed through in terms of getting training, getting good training, and then, starting to do it myself again and again and again and again, seeing the power of it, and eventually helped start a eating disorder program at a particular center that I was working with at the time that was experiential in nature.
What are some of the most surprising insights clients might gain through psychodrama that might not emerge in talk therapy?
I'll tell you a story that I believe that I have in the book that you reference. There can be a deep understanding and deep knowing that is often very surprising. So, in one group I was working with, this is a while back, but so memorable. I did a group where we were experiencing a guided imagery, having a particular food just naturally show up in the imagery, and then I had
Hmm.
everybody draw the food that they had seen coming up
Hmm.
individually in their imagery. One woman drew a piece of lemon meringue pie. That was her
Hmm.
picture. Other people had
Hmm.
other things.
Yeah.
Her picture was lemon meringue pie. I asked her to hold up the picture to her chest and pause and experience, and then take the role of the lemon meringue pie to speak as
Hmm.
and that particular kind of pie. So first she described herself, I'm yellow and I have, this frothy, somewhat toasted topping of lemon of meringue, and I have a crust. And she just described herself as first. So in the role of the therapist, I asked her some questions about, well, where did you come from? And what memories does so and so have of you, and so forth, to
Mm.
learn about the relationship that she had with this
Yeah.
pie, because it was one of her favorite binge foods.
Hmm.
As she talked from the viewpoint of the pie, she discovered, or the pie discovered, that this was a pie that was baked by her grandmother.
Mm.
And her grandmother baked this pie because the grandmother knew the granddaughter loved lemon meringue pie. And the grandmother was attempting to show love
Yeah.
by baking her granddaughter her very favorite food.
Hmm.
This was a huge aha moment for this individual, in that this wasn't about binging. This wasn't about lemon meringue pies.
Hmm.
Was about the love between a granddaughter and a grandmother
Hmm.
that was hugely important. And once she was able to understand that, the way she looked at that pie changed.
Mm.
And the way she interacted with that pie changed, because she understood it was a symbol of love,
Yeah.
and it was possible for her to find love in other places and other ways, rather than only through that particular food.
Hmm. Yeah. Profound, profound insight that can lead to profound behavioral change right there. Wow.
Yes, exactly.
What are some of the other common psychodrama exercises or techniques that you found impactful for clients with eating disorders? I saw that in this book that there's many ones that were intriguing. My level of background in psychodrama is not so deep that I'm familiar with most of them, like walk around the clock, and just there's a lot that seemed pretty interesting. I'm wondering if you could share a few common ones that could be extra helpful for clients with eating disorders.
So I will tell you that myself and my co-author, Linda Ciatola, we gathered, we call them structures sometimes, call them experiences sometimes, but we
Mm-hmm.
gathered them from many, many places. Some of them were particular around the treatment of eating disorders, and some of them were things that we had adapted from other
Mm-hmm.
ways.
Yeah.
So walking around the clock has been around for a while. And in walking around the clock, we create a circle on the floor and marking a 12 and a 6 and a 3 and a 9. We can do
Mm-hmm.
that with scarves or mats or cloths or really anything, pillows.
Mm-hmm.
And it is a really good way to look at what we do at what time of day, and to gain an understanding of perhaps certain really inbred habits
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that we just naturally do without thinking about it. So the timeline helps us notice and observe and experience what we're doing when. So maybe, for instance, we might have a place on the clock at 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
And so a person walks to that place on the circle where it's, the circle clock where it's 6:30, and I'm waking up. And what happens in this moment when I'm waking up? Well, maybe I stretch, or maybe I look at the clock, or maybe I slam the snooze button, or whatever it is I do. And we do all of that, whatever it is. And then we notice that moment that we get up, and we, of course, we are in one way or another, maybe very simply, or maybe in a more complicated way. We're acting it out. What happens next? So maybe I start thinking about food and what I'm going to eat. Or maybe I go to the fridge and just open it up and see where my hand lands,
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is, wherever it is. Maybe I am, and so then maybe I'm having my breakfast, or maybe I'm not having my breakfast. Maybe I'm skipping my breakfast.
Right.
And then what happens then? So I'm going to work, or I'm going to school, so we're walking a little bit, going to school, going to work, doing something else. Maybe we think about exercising, but we decide not to. Or
Mm-hmm.
maybe we go exercise and maybe we over exercise,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we are literally looking, and then is there a time when I start thinking about a snack?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I start getting hungry about 11 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
What's the thought that goes through my mind? We might have a soliloquy.
Mm-hmm.
It's not quite noon yet, but I'm hungry now, right? And then we might walk over to the noontime time. That's that 12 at the top of the clock.
Mm-hmm.
And so we keep on looking at, and what is I'm doing now, and what I'm doing now, and what I'm doing now. First, it's more of an assessment and awareness tool.
Mm-hmm.
And later we can say, and how can I alter those habits consciously? Now that I'm conscious of habit, minute to minute, hour to hour, how might I interrupt those habitual moments and do something different? And then I might practice that, literally practice that during the session.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I could call a friend. Oh, I could, in that morning, I could make a more healthy lunch
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or whatever it may be.
Mm-hmm.
Here are some alternatives that I can do rather than filling myself with food. And I can actually practice them as I move around the clock.
Mm-hmm.
I can listen to some music. I can stretch. I
Mm-hmm.
can have as one of my friends calls it, an exercise snack, meaning a short little tiny bit of exercise.
Mm-hmm.
So I not only learn and become more aware of my habitual actions and decisions, maybe they're unconscious decisions. I grow in consciousness in terms of literally what I'm doing hour to hour and hour, and what else I might do
Mm-hmm.
that might support me in a better way.
That's interesting. That's super interesting.
Yeah.
I'm imagining a big circle on the ground, and then maybe the first round of the circle is
Mhm.
the one of awareness of like, what are
Mhm.
you doing in these different time points? And then maybe you go around the circle another time, and that is maybe like a what can you do differently if you're no, if you had the awareness of like, this is how my eating disorder is like playing out within a 24-hour cycle, right? And then you can go
Right.
around the second time and be like, what might an alternative choice be, or what would I rather do? And then when they're acting it out, are they still standing in that space, or can they move around the room because they might need to act out something larger? Like, how might they take up space in their rounds?
Some of that might have to do with the actual practice space, the literal practice space of the therapist, in terms of how much room there is to move or
Mm-hmm.
move less.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and some of that might be related to the person's own spontaneity.
Right.
Again, are they comfortable using their bodies? Are they comfortable with movement in general? Of course,
Mm-hmm.
in psychodrama, we're always interested in warming people up. This is often why those role plays fall flat, because there's no, what we call in psychodrama, literally a warm up, where we ready the person for action. We don't jump
Mm-hmm.
into action the first minute the person walks into the room, or just
Yeah.
say, hey, tuck to that pillow on the sofa. We are taking the person by the hand, metaphorically speaking, and we are warming up the person to the action and being
Mm-hmm.
aware of what the person is warmed up to, just as we're warming up the person in general to recovery.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think so many times, we say to a person, here's your treatment plan.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it can feel really overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
And the psychodrama philosophy, this is apart from techniques and structures, is that we warm the person up to a new role. We
Mm-hmm.
warm the person up to taking action. And recovery and healing is ultimately about action, making
Mm-hmm.
different decisions, making healthier decisions,
Mm-hmm.
making decisions that serve you
Right.
rather than inhibit you.
Can you talk about empty chair exercise? Is that a common one that's used?
Yes, so empty chair is perhaps the most well-known psychodramatic technique. A lot of people think it was started by Fritz Perls, the man who developed Gestalt therapy. But
Hmm.
in fact, Fritz Perls was a student at one point of Dr. Moreno, the man who developed
Oh,
psychodrama. So
okay.
he took it and then adapted it
Mm-hmm.
himself for his work.
Mm-hmm.
So the empty chair is a chair, and I would get one for you, but It's back there on my little
We'll just
tablets.
imagine.
I
Uh-huh.
have little ones too that I use in
Oh,
teletherapy.
oh, cool.
Um, the empty chair is incredibly useful because when we pull out that empty chair, whether it's in miniature form in teletherapy or whether it's in full-size form in an actual practice space, it allows us to project whatever is important to us in that moment, in the here and
Hmm.
now.
Hmm.
So I might be very directive and say, this is your binge food on this chair, and ask you to consider what shows up
Yeah.
in the chair, and then we might do something with it. Maybe we'll just sit with it and be with it. And what's it like being over here? And what's it like having that binge food on the chair over there?
Hmm.
Or maybe we will have the person speak to that binge food.
Hmm.
Or maybe, and this is all variable according to the person, the person's level of readiness, the person's spontaneity, the person's willingness.
Yeah.
I might have the person go over and be the binge food and
Hmm.
speak as the binge food. We call this role reversal. Or maybe we won't go there yet. Maybe we'll just speak to the food. So that would be a very directive way of working with the empty chair. A more broad way, and again, there's so many ways to work with this. And of course, this is why training becomes important, because
Hmm.
one thing I might do for one person may be not very helpful to another person.
Right.
I might just bring out the empty chair and say, and who or what is there for you right now?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
that opens it up quite a
Right.
bit, right?
Hmm.
In fact, you might even be noticing as I'm talking to you right now that maybe something's popping in your brain, in your head about who would be in your empty chair at this moment, right?
Hmm.
I won't
Hmm.
ask you. Or or we may do the same exercise tomorrow and it might be something or someone completely different because this is
Right.
a very here and now experience.
Yeah. When you talked about the warming up, that is something that I was curious about because these experiences, practices, exercises can take someone out of their comfort zone. I'd say
Yes,
a lot of people.
yes.
Um, and actually that's one of the reasons that I was attracted to it because normally in my day-to-day, I'm a big introvert. I'm pretty isolated. Like I work from home, I just graduated from my doctoral program. I would always be in my house studying or working, whatever. But like, I'm not one, and I'm also a pretty quiet person. So I'm not one to like be theatrical or anything like that. But I appreciated these exercises to have me to, yeah, experiment with things in new ways. I did have the willingness, but I wonder with some people, yeah, I mean, I'm gonna guess that you're never trying to convince anyone because they're probably coming to you because they have an interest and they might admit like, oh my gosh, this is weird or scary, but I'm interested in it. So I don't think you have to convince them, but how do you help them to let go or like to act out in a way when normally just people sit and just move their mouths? How do you help them to feel comfortable and safe?
That's an excellent question and a question that every experiential therapist would need to ask. So we talk generally about the warming up process, which is a key philosophy in psychodrama. And of course, I, as the therapist, we call ourselves in psychodrama directors because it's really improvisational theater is what we're doing. We're doing for a point, not just for fun. Although it
Right.
can be fun many times.
Yeah, yeah.
So I, as the director therapist, need to be the warmed up person in the room first. Because the more warmed up I am, it is energetically catching.
Right. Hmm.
This is why when those people come into the room and they say, okay, who wants to do a role play? Nobody goes, not me.
Someone else, yeah.
I have to be warmed up. I have to be spontaneous. I have to be in touch with my own creativity
Mm,
in that moment. I have to be warmed up to doing that group, or maybe if I'm working one-to-one with that person. I'm also going to be assessing, and here I'm speaking clinically, I'm also going to be assessing that person's warm up, not just in the moment, but as I
mm,
get to know that person their historical warm-up. And some people have a very slow warm-up, very slow. Some people, they walk into your space or they walk into the group, and they're what my mentor, Zirka Moreno, used to call overheated. They're just all over the
Mhm.
place, right?
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
So part of my assessment is how warmed up is the person? And then how can I continue to support warm up in the person? Some of that is listening to how they're talking, what they're talking about,
Mhm.
the theme for the day or the theme for the group.
Mhm.
And some of that is picking a particular warm up activity that's helpful to have the person move to the next step. If I'm working in a group, the whole group has to be warmed up. And I also am picking a warm up according to what I'm interested in having the group approach or look at.
Mhm. Mhm.
So if we were working on identifying your most, oh, the binge food that was most challenging for you, I would not necessarily talk about concrete blocks, for instance.
Mhm.
But
Mhm.
I'd pick a theme that would lead you to that place. And many times those warm-ups are multi-leveled,
Mhm.
meaning they build on each other. It's not the icebreaker that many people talk about, like, well, we'll
Mhm.
just do one thing and then then we'll be ready. No,
Yeah.
we're doing multiple things.
Mhm.
And I must connect, if I'm working in a group, I must connect the group. I don't know if
Mhm.
you've had group experiences or one-to-one experiences.
Yeah.
But the group must feel safe together, must feel trusting together. I'm not going to do something a little bit out of the ordinary if I'm going to be wondering what that person's going to be thinking of me or what that person's going to be thinking of me.
Mhm.
So I really want to warm up the group, helping the group feel more connected, more open to sharing, more disclosing,
Mhm.
knowing each other. Then it's really easy actually to go into action because people trust each other. And even if it's a new group, they have some level of willingness to interact with each other.
Mhm. For eating disorders specifically, do you have I know some people, and not talking about psychodrama, but just, some people believe that the power of the group is really important. Other people prefer one-on-one. Where do you land on that spectrum for people with psychodrama and eating disorders? Do you prefer one-on-one? Do you like a weekend workshop? Do you like a 6 weeks group series? Like, what do you find most powerful with clients?
So I'm a big fan of group. Given the option to send somebody here or send somebody there, I would typically encourage the person to check in with group
Hmm. Hmm.
because the group becomes the healing agent. And
Yeah.
I'm more of the facilitator,
Hmm.
supporting the group to support each other.
Hmm.
Now, not everybody likes group.
Hmm.
Sometimes people feel very anxious in group,
Yeah.
which often stems from family of origin, because sometimes the groups we were raised in were not very friendly,
Yeah.
right? So sometimes we work with individual and group. Sometimes the person needs to build more trust in the therapist ahead of time. And sometimes people just aren't ready for group. They really want and desire that one-to-one attention. However, I always, some people think it's better. They think group is like for people that can afford one-to-one or something. I don't know.
Mm,
They,
mhm,
but
mhm,
really, group is so much richer because I get a chance to be with other people like me, number
mhm.
one.
Right,
So I
right.
feel less isolated and less
Yeah,
alone.
right,
And
right.
I typically believe, it's not, you're nodding your head, so you must believe as well, that these conditions are typically very isolating.
Mm-hmm.
And there can be a huge amount of shame connected to behaviors around many things, binge eating included.
Right.
So to be with other people that get it, that understand it, that want to interact with you and want to be with you and understand that shame, that embarrassment, that tendency to isolate can be actually very healing.
100%. Yeah, 100%. Are there any practices that can be done solo? Like I'm imagining, you are the director and you're helping to facilitate people, but what if someone, I don't know, maybe they have to work with a director first and then they can start to understand so they can implement by themselves. But is there any opportunity for a person to just be at home by themselves and do some sort of psychodramatic technique, or would you say that it is really best with a facilitator?
I think that it's possible to bring action to personal growth. We do it with journaling many times, where we journal with ourselves, from ourselves, and then from maybe, we're talking about binge foods again, maybe the binge food speaks. So maybe
Yeah.
we'll journal blah, 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 blah as
Mm-hmm.
Karen, and
Right.
then blah, 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 blah as caffeinated coffee, right? And then Karen speaks, and then caffeinated coffee speaks, and whatever,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is a kind of role reversal.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Still using writing, of course. Empty chair, I've used empty chair myself,
Mm-hmm.
where I have, I've been like, maybe I had an interaction out in real life and I didn't say that thing that
Mm-hmm.
I could have said, would have said, wanted to
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
maybe because for that moment I was dumbstruck, maybe because time was shortened, maybe for this, maybe for that reason. So I can certainly put out an empty chair and speak to that person or that thing in the
Mm-hmm.
empty chair. I can also sit in a chair of strength, so
Mm-hmm.
maybe I will identify, for instance, a mentor or a teacher or a person that has influenced me in a really positive way. And could I imagine that person sitting in the chair first, inviting that person to come in energetic form
Mm-hmm.
and place that person there, have that person sit. And then could I imagine actually going to that chair and becoming them, embodying them, and taking in that wisdom? So maybe if I'm having a problem or I'm having a struggle or I'm just, reached the limit of my ability to think something through, then
Mm-hmm.
I can sit in that wisdom chair personified by a particular individual, past, present, whoever, whatever, someone I know, someone I don't know, and I can embody them. And I always say to people, slow down, like sit in the chair and really like let yourself take on that role. And then once I take on that role, what would this wisdom figure want to say to me, Karen? That can be actually a great exercise to do when we get stuck,
Mm-hmm.
when we feel we have reached the limits of thinking through something.
Yeah.
And I would say to speak out loud too,
Yeah. I love
um,
that.
unless you're living in a situation where the person might go, Karen, what's going on? But I would say to speak out loud because there's something powerful in the speaking.
Mm-hmm.
Not the speaking about, but the
Right.
speaking to,
Okay.
which brings it into the present moment.
Right. I definitely think that there's something special about speaking out loud
Yeah.
for sure. When you're talking about the empty chair exercises and kind of going back between perhaps different parts of you, or for you to, is it now role reversal if there's someone who is the representing the strength and wisdom and then they talk to you and then you sit there and you're taking that on? Is that role reversal?
Yes. So role reversal is when we step into the role of another
Mm-hmm.
or the other, because it could be, of
Mm-hmm.
course, a person, but
Mm-hmm.
it could be a group, it could be
Mm-hmm.
your support group.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your support group isn't immediately available in that minute. You could put the whole support group on the chair. Maybe there's many chairs, I don't know. But it could be also the role of the other in terms of something else.
Mm-hmm.
For people that believe in God, it could be God.
Yeah.
It could be higher power. I've done role reversal many times around strength building, and I've had everybody from the Dalai Lama to Santa Claus, right?
Uh-huh.
The generosity of Santa Claus, right?
Yeah.
And I do want to say something. I just had a training actually just 2 weeks ago on what are you hungry for? And we
Mm.
looked at addiction. That was here in Lancaster County. And so using that, what are you hungry for? Typically, when we have a compulsion, addiction, a binging experience, we're looking for more,
Right.
right? We want more of something. So it's always really helpful to look at what do we want more of? And many times, as you heard me talk about with the woman with the lemon meringue pie slice, many times that other thing is more hidden,
hmm
less conscious.
And just to bring this into like practicality, would this be two chairs? And then you could explore, like you are in one chair trying to explore something, and then you move to the other chair
Yes,
to take on, the other thing that might, or
yes,
you, if you were to try to take on the strength and wisdom or the, I don't know, expression of another object or person or place that you
yes.
would, so you'd have two chairs.
Yes, two chairs or two places to sit or a place to stand. I mean, you could use the sofa behind you. Sometimes if we're standing up, we can use mats. I use placemats, the kind that you place on your table for food, but
Yeah,
placemats are great because maybe you don't have enough room for a chair or
right.
don't have an extra chair available. Yes, so you're stepping in the role of the other, whoever the other is, whoever or
hmm
whatever, and
Yeah.
see what that other has to say. And I always say, take a little time to really sink into the embodiment because sometimes it needs to organically show up. Sometimes it's right there. But
Uh-huh. Mhm.
sometimes it needs a little bit time to really make its way to our brain to find the words and then, out through our mouth to actually be spoken.
I wish I could have taken that training. I'm in California, so it's a bit far for me, but I would love if you could share, some of the trainings that you offer, because I mean you have a whole institute in Pennsylvania, right? And you also like lead retreats and stuff. Can you tell us about the trainings you offer, the retreats you offer, and yeah, especially in terms of experiential and action methods, and maybe as they relate to eating disorders, if you have any more trainings coming up on that.
Yes. Well, I'm actually in the process of putting together my schedule for next year. And if there is enough interest, I'm willing to do a multiple day training on eating disorders, actually.
I'm there.
So maybe we will, yeah. So yes, I do have a school, where I teach generally monthly. I teach action methods of various kinds, mostly focusing on psychodrama. But this last May, I had a wonderful 3-day intensive on Sandtray,
Okay.
which was very well received. Sandtray and psychodrama, which is great to do. And I do use adults. I don't work with children really.
hmm
Um, Also work with the tarot for a
hmm
2-day intensive. And a lot of people are interested in tarot now as a symbolic way of working,
hmm
not a fortune telling way of work. And so yes, I do teach on various topics. I would say one thing about the way that I teach personally, because there are many wonderful, wonderful trainers out there, is that I'm very interested in having a setting where helping and healing professionals can come and be just as they are, can rest, can interact with each other, can connect, can support each other. So my setting is in a lovely nature setting here in
Oh.
Lancaster County, Pennsylvania,
Mm,
because I believe that helping professionals, whatever we are, whether we're therapists or physicians or nurses or chaplains or whatever, we do really hard work. And we so need not just the training, but we need opportunities to have our own healing, have our own personal growth, have our own times to be with like-minded people who want to get replenished before they go back out in the world. And that to me is just as important as the knowledge that I'm imparting or the techniques that I'm teaching. And I
mhm,
wish more trainers saw it that way, where this
mhm,
is not about PowerPoints. And by the way, I do not use PowerPoints, but
mhm,
it's not about just shoveling information over in your direction and hoping that you catch it. But it's about being relaxed enough to learn,
mhm,
being present enough to learn, to be
mhm,
willing to have the experiences that you will then be asking your people to take
mhm.
part in.
That's interesting. Yeah, so it's like an embodiment, a facilitated embodiment experience in and of itself, just like a
Yes,
nervous system sort of experience.
yes, exactly. we want our nervous systems to settle and be grounded and be revitalized. So we can
Mm-hmm.
then go out and work with whatever or whoever comes into our spaces.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
That sounds beautiful. And you are also writing some books. Is that right? Books with a S?
I am slowly writing more books. It's very slow because my problem is that I'm writing
So many.
this one and this one and this one all at the same time. I'm writing on the use of tarot in psychotherapy from a very clinical point of view, looking at archetypes and looking at the symbolic journey and
Mm-hmm.
looking at
Mm-hmm.
how we symbolically can look at our problems and our situations and our goals. I also am writing a book on Sandtray. And you've heard
Mm-hmm.
me talk about my
Mm-hmm.
Sandtray intensive
Mm-hmm.
just 2 months ago, for adults, because that is also a really growing field where we're understanding that play and imagination, improvisation isn't just for kids. And actually, that's what makes us better helpers. If we're
Mm-hmm.
quick on our feet, if we're able to improvise, if we're able to be creative, that's
Mm-hmm.
really what makes us good.
How big are the sand trays for adults?
I do use the regulation Sandtray as devised and endorsed by Dora Kolff, who was a Jungian
Okay.
um, therapist who is often credited as one of the originators. She's not the only one. She
Mm-hmm.
had very
Mm-hmm.
particular dimensions
Okay.
for the tray, and I'm sorry to say I can't remember them
Um, is
offhand.
it like this big? Like pretty
They're
big?
about this big.
Okay.
I want to
Okay.
say 18 inches by 14 inches, but I may be wrong about that. And
Okay.
so high, and then the interior is painted with blue marine paint.
Hmm.
But through the years, I've become aware, especially in working with trauma, that sometimes that tray is too big. So
Mm.
the tray was devised by Dora because she said that is what the eye can easily see as a
Mm.
landscape.
Yeah.
I think that's true, but I have learned on my own in working through the years with Sandtray is that sometimes that tray is too big for people, especially trauma survivors.
Yeah.
It's too overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So now I encourage work with a variety of settings in a variety of ways, a variety of sizes that suit the person that you're working with, because one size really does not fit all.
Cool. Okay. So a book on tarot and psychotherapy, a book on sand tray, and did you say and action methods?
And action methods.
Okay.
Oh, and then my other book, because I'm very interested in intergenerational trauma and
Mm-hmm.
ancestors in general. And one of the books already is on combining Sandtray and constellation work. That was published by the same company that published the book that you have.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm working on a story on some of my own ancestors, my father's
Mm-hmm.
lineage,
Mm-hmm.
not only to tell my story from my family, but as an example on how people can research and grow from their own ancestral lineage with very simple activities, very simple instructions that support them in growing by understanding their ancestral lineage.
Fascinating. You have a lot of deep work and sounds like a lot of research that you are trying to that you would need to pull into your book. So that is no small task.
Well, I do love writing and I do love communicating and sharing with what I know so that other people can gain from it.
Mm-hmm. That's wonderful. Thank you so much for being here today, Karen, and sharing with me so generously. If people want to become part of your world, is there a best website or social media or wherever you want to send people? Can you share with us what that is?
Yes, well, I have a website, realtruekaren.com, REALTRUE, Karen, my name.com. And I'm also on most social medias, Facebook and Instagram, and I'm on YouTube. I have some
Oh,
videos, little videos coming up on YouTube, and there's some there already. And then I just started a Substack
oh, great.
account where I'm specifically writing about experiential therapies and creativity and using creativity and healing.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are welcome to subscribe there as well. It's free. I'm trying to keep it free because I really do want to share this information.
Yeah, wonderful. That's so valuable. Thank you. And I will include all those links in the episode description. Thank you so much for being here today, Karen.
Thank you so much for having me.